Hello everyone, it's Glacial Star here. Welcome back to another video. In this video, guys, we are going to be talking about a different game for once. It's not going to be Pokemon Showdown. Today, actually, I'm talking about a game I've been playing quite a lot recently, and that is Overwatch. Now, depending on what you've seen and heard, you'll either hate this game or love this game. Um, or you can have a bit of both, honestly, because most Overwatch players hate it, but they also can't stop playing it. And I wanted to focus specifically on an issue that has been plaguing the community a lot recently, and it's something that people, at least my perspective on it, is something people don't really focus on, and that is how does a low rank player actually play this game or see this game? How does a low rank player you know, see the issues that is 5v5 versus 6v6? Now I'm assuming that you know this game. If not, a quick rundown. Basically, Overwatch 1 used to be 6v6, where there was 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports, and then in Overwatch 2 it switched from 6v6 to 5v5, and it went to 2 DPS, 2 supports, and 1 tank. Now, if you don't know the game, that's not a fundamental issue, but I will try my best to make sense as to why that's an issue later. But before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys my actual rank and the time I've played. So it's going to be on screen, but in case you're dyslexic or something, it is Plat 5 on tank. Support, I am Gold 3. And DPS, I'm Silver 2. So I'm by no means a high rank player, and I only have about 300 hours in the game. Now, with that being said, I still have played this game enough to have a good understanding of game knowledge. It's not great, but I know the game. I know counter swap. I know what does good against what, so on and so forth. But first, before we get into the 6v6 issue, let's talk about why they went to 5v5 in the first place. So, in Overwatch 1, in its graveyard seasons, and seemingly before that, the game kind of fell into a bit of a limbo where it wasn't that popular, say. And there was not a lot of tank players. There was so many DPS players in comparison, though. So what actually ended up happening is you end up with a bit of a bottleneck and a choke point almost in the queue times, where there was so many DPS that there wasn't enough tanks to get these DPS players into games. So let's say you had 10 DPS and 2 tanks, right? That is 5 sets of queues that the DPS would need to go through before they get into a game. Now, it wasn't usually this bad as far as I'm aware. It was more like 8 to 10 minute queue times, I believe, 15 minutes maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't play it this time, and that's exactly why I think my perspective is unique, though, because I have never played in 6v6 proper. Now, I've done some 6v6 games with friends and stuff under the 6v6 code, the custom game, but because that was kind of my friends, it was a lot of different ranks, right? It ranged from as low as bronze to as high as GM, and actually top 500 in some cases. Console, though. Console's top 500. So I didn't get the full proper experience because either I was getting carried or I was getting absolutely destroyed because I'm in plat. So, I've experienced it, but not to the extent that some players have obviously experienced it and who played in original Overwatch as well. So that's why they went to 5v5, is because they thought that if you take away 1 tank, there's less tanks, therefore you get rid of that chokehold by letting 1 tank through instead of 2, which means that extra tank that would have gotten through is now available for a game. Now, this did cause some issues with the tank role, however, which is why I'll get into that later. But first, let's understand why people argue against 6v6. The main reason people seem to associate with it is queue times, which is totally fair. Queue times are an issue. Like, the average player doesn't want to sit here and queue for God knows how many minutes just to get a game. Now, if you really value the game experience, yeah, you might be okay with waiting, but at the end of the day, long queue times suck. And you can get rid of that choke by making sure there's only 1 tank on the field, and it largely seems to have worked, although I know that higher ranks do struggle to still get tanks. I mean like top 500 tanks in Asia are like diamond, or at least on console, so pretty alarming stuff. Anyway, Another big thing that people associate with it is Double Shield. Double Shield was a Overwatch 1 metagame that basically made the enemy team unkillable, especially on choke points like Volskaya Industries on first point on 2CP. But basically this meta relied down to 2 tanks that had shields, so Sigma or Reinhardt, Orisa and Reinhardt, or Sigma and Orisa. I don't know which one was the most popular, so don't ask me. But we don't have that issue anymore because there's not another tank. But basically what it meant is essentially people were unkillable because of the shields. But in reality, it was less because of the shields and more because of the AoE healing that was granted by this double shield metagame. Basically, things like Brig and Bat were extremely broken when they first released, and were for quite a while. So they would be able to sustain an entire team with like 3 tanks, 2 supports, and a DPS, maybe, or just another support. And they'd be able to sustain all that healing because, you know, balance was the issue. Not because of the format. 66 was never a format problem here. It was a balance problem. And the dev team is largely improved, in my opinion, in regards to balance. They're not perfect. They're not great. But they've improved a lot in regards to balance, I think. We'll talk a bit more about that later, though. Another one they refer to is the GOATS meta, which can never happen again because we don't have open queue anymore. We have role lock. And yes, I say role lock and not role queue because it is role lock. But essentially, that was another one that involved Brig. I mean, Brig's clearly not the problem here, guys. And, you know, it basically just meant a whole team could be sustained without DPS and without any real form of formatting. It was more like just throw tanks, throw supports, and win. I don't remember the exact. Sometimes you get a Sombra, but I don't know the exact stuff. And feel free to correct me in the comments. But next up, we have the arguments for 6v6. Why is it better, right? I've explained why it sucks, so why is it better? Maybe. Allegedly. The reason that 6v6 is better is because it allows you to negate one of the issues of 5v5 that I'm about to talk about now. 5v5 has issues, and the first one of that is counter-swapping. Now, I have a clip from GS Raider. He let me use his clips. He was very nice about it. I have a clip from him explaining this, but I will go over it myself as well. Basically, in 5v5, you only have 1 tank. So there's only 1 tank to counter, right? So basically what happens is say you're playing a certain tank and you're diffing the other tank. You're better than them, right? You're destroying them. They might go to a tank that counters yours. And because there's only 1 tank, that tank can almost nearly completely shut you down just by existing and just holding a button or something. Now the issue with that is it just removes any fun the tank wants. Like, yes, counter swapping has always been a thing in Overwatch, but it's never been worse than in 5v5. And even in a 6v6 format, there will always be counter swapping. There's no debating that, whether you like it or not. There will always be counter swapping in this game, but it shouldn't be to the extent that it is right now, where you could basically entirely negate the other tank. Which, by the way, is important because you're a super raid boss now, because you've had to be buffed to oblivion to compensate for the fact that there's not another tank to, you know, actually support you. But anyway, I digress. It meant that tanks can kind of just shut each other down, and it's no fun for the other tank. I'll roll a clip of Raider now. He recently started playing on tank, and found this experience to be quite frustrating.
Saying how a game can be that close despite me going 37-3, all because I got counterpicked, which closes the skill difference at the cost of no effort or skill at all. And that's my problem with this role, that the worst player can shut you down solely by countering. I'm all for countering and swapping, but there are just some matchups that are so insanely lopsided. Zarya into Diva, Mauga into Winston, Hog into Ball, Diva into Monkey, Mauga and Orisa into Ryan, Hog into Doom. Matchups where the enemy will outmatch you by solely being on that hero. They don't even have to have an ounce of skill. The matchup just gives them the upper hand and completely wipes out the skill difference. This is where the fun gets completely drained from this role because I want to play Ram, but I'm forced to swap in most games. The amount of times I had to swap to Hog, and I find Hog to be the most boring one-dimensional character where you just hook and shoot, hook and shoot. Not to mention, if you Hog mirror, you gotta depend on your supports to go on or Kiri, and it's not only tank matchups. Imagine trying to play Ball and the enemy DPS counter swaps to Sombra, Kree, or Brig. Imagine trying to play Ram or Ryan and the enemy picks Bastion and Zen. When something like counterpicking is so easy to do, it takes away your ability to express your skill, and that is not healthy for any game because the better player should always win in a competitive environment.
And the second issue with 5v5 is the inability to peel and be a frontline. Because in Overwatch 1 in 66, you were able to have a frontline tank that stood on the front line, taking the shots, trying to push people back, making space, while you had an off tank that might peel for your supports or flank sometimes. Flank heart, you know. It basically allowed a lot more play styles on tank to be enabled. But now, though, you kind of have to frontline or you have to peel, and either way, your team's going to bitch at you for it. They're going to bitch about not being the frontline, they're going to bitch about not peeling your supports, and it just kind of sucks. It's not fun.
To peel, but needing to be your frontline at the same time. This game showcases that problem perfectly, where I try to peel for my Ana who's being dove by a ball, just to have my DPS bitch at me for not walking forward.
So, when it comes to things like that, you have to really consider, is the solo tank experience the way to go? And corner swapping as well, it goes further than just tanks. It goes to DPS, it goes to supports. You're doing really well on Winston, oh, too late, Zenyatta is here. Discord, right? You're screwed, right? Toosh, 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 that's you're cooked, right? Or Bastion, you know, you hear those menacing beeps and, you know, you have the 1,000-yard stare. And this motherfucker comes up, fucking massive turret in hand, and just beams you down, and there's nothing you can do because it's a Bastion. Now there's certain tanks that don't care about Bastion, obviously, like D.Va really doesn't give a fuck, but D.Va's also broken right now, so keep that in mind. But it also goes as far as supports as well, because if you have a Hog on the enemy team, you want an Ana. Why do you want an Ana? Because you want to anti that Hog and make sure you can't self-heal, because that's his whole thing, is the self-heal. Same Mauga. You know, like, you don't want them to actually get the value out of their abilities because you're a super raid boss, so therefore your picks and what you do is the most important thing. It's literally raid bosses. Like, it's not even 5v5 or 6v6. It's 1v1, and there's 4 little guys surrounding you, keeping you up or damaging the guy a bit, you know, just chip damage. Like, I think one example I really like is King Kong versus Godzilla, and you know the wee fighter jets in the background, the one shooting at King Kong or Godzilla. Like, yeah, that's every other role in the game right now. But anyway, moving forth there, on from the issues of that format, let's talk a bit about the balance and how it kind of cues into 5v5 and 6v6. It's not as important, and it's not the main factors. But, you know, balance has been quite shitty as of late, and it's always been shitty according to the community, at least before 2019, or after 2019, my apologies. I don't really know the effects of that. I'm not sure. I haven't been here long enough to know. But essentially, balance is pretty subpar, and it's a very hard thing to do as well, because you have to balance for top 500 so that they enjoy the game, but you also have to balance for the low ranks, and some things that are powerful in top 500 are necessary evils in lower ranks, or at least something that makes the game more accessible to people in some respects. Now, an example of this I like to point to a lot is the Sojourn nerfs a couple patches ago, I think it was. Her primary fire got buffed, but her secondary fire got nerfed. Now, in top 500 ranks and higher ranks like that, the secondary fire was the issue, right? It did way too much damage, and you hit headshots on it, you basically it's a free kill, basically. Yet no one seems to care that Widow gets a free kill if she just hits them in the head. But, you know, Sojourn was broken, I guess. But, you know, Widow can hit in the head in one shot just fine. She's perfectly balanced. Anyway, the issue comes down to the fact that her primary fire had been buffed. And in lower ranks, I feel like that has had a knock-on effect on us. Sojourn is a lot more accessible now, and she's a lot more spammable. That doesn't mean she's necessarily broken. I'm not sure I agree she's broken per se, but she's certainly a bigger hindrance on everything in the lower ranks because she does more damage on her primary fire, and her railgun is secondary to her primary fire in lower ranks. Because I play Sojourn sometimes, right? I ain't not hitting headshots on that railgun unless it's on the tank. It's not happening, bro. I don't have the aim for that. You know, and I feel like that's an issue that's throughout quite a lot of the lower ranks, which is something that you have to say to yourself, okay, do we balance for the top 500s? Do we balance for, you know, lower rank players? It's the same with the Lari. Like, her turret could use a nerf, but how do you do that for low ranks? Because in low ranks, the turret positioning is not great. Like, I can exploit a lot of the turrets in low ranks, and it's not a big issue for me. But I understand that there's certain places you can just put that turret and it's a free win because you literally can't destroy it without sacrificing your life, which is just not fair because it's basically 65. But again, that is balance issues that will hopefully be fixed in time, but you need to decide what's more important to prioritize. I personally think that you should be prioritizing the lower ranks because that's where the player base is at. Now, I know a top 500 player that might be listening to this, God forbid. That would be nice, I guess, you know, if this video got attention, but we'll see. I feel like I offer a unique perspective on this, but regardless, I'm getting off topic. So, essentially, what's happening is, you know, you need to choose where you're balancing. And that will be more present when 66 comes back in the patch coming up after Aaron's little speech or blog post. Because the game is different now, right? The game is different. Break's been nerfed. BAP's nowhere near as good as he used to be. You know, all this new tanks, new supports, new DPS. Like, how do you balance Solari in 6v6? Like, that turret's already hard to deal with. Imagine you could pump that heals into 5 people, not 4. It's pretty crazy. So, we need to decide where that balance should go, and that is something the dev team really needs to think carefully on. And I worry that 66, they'll kind of half-ass 66 and go, well, guys, you see, it didn't work, guys, but you didn't actually edit the game to where it needs to be for 66, and that would be a real problem and a real shame, to be honest, because a lot of what people want to see is this 66, and we want to see it thrive. We want this game to be good again. Now, I'm not going to speak on top of the people that have been here since day one, and I've seen the game slowly decline. I'm sure it's awful for them. For me, I just want to have fun on tank. But, you know, I still think it's relevant to make this video because as a lower ranked player, I do think that 6v6 is the way. And it's not just you guys up there that have been playing the game for ages. Anyways, to finish up here, overall, each format has its issues. We know this. It's been known. And Aaron's blog really gave the community the context that we needed. I wish they'd focused on partner swapping a bit more. The blog didn't really address that, but it did address why 6v6 is logistically difficult. The graphical one, it particularly resonated with me because I'm on last gen. I know I need to upgrade. I don't have the money though. But I sometimes see orbs when I'm loading into a game, you know what I mean? Like, the players are just orbs. And that's it. I can't really see who it is. It doesn't usually last long, although I've heard it's worse on Switch. It doesn't usually last long, it fixes itself. But overall, I think it's very important that we prioritize performance. And at what point does Blizzard have to say, guys, we can't support last gen anymore? I, as a last gen player, would be disappointed, but I understand. Like, I'm gonna get a new console eventually, but it's just gonna take a while until I'm sort of with everything in... Oh, sorry, that probably sounded bad. With everything in uni, I need to get that sorted, you know, and everything, all of my life needs to be sorted first. But it's definitely a possibility, and if that is what makes this game better, I'd rather see that. And in closing, again, if you guys disagree with me and think that because I'm a low rank player, I don't have an opinion in this, that's crazy, bro. I don't care. I'm making this video regardless, and your comment does nothing to take it down. But if you feel the need to express that, please do, because it gets me interactions. I'm very anxious about putting this video up because of people just kind of invalidating me and saying it doesn't matter, you're low rank. Um, but hopefully people will at least acknowledge that the low rank experience is different from the top rank experience, and balancing this game is going to be difficult for all ranks. But that's pretty much it. If you guys want to see more Overwatch content, let me know, because I really do enjoy the game, apart from the tank experience. But, you know, I enjoy the game. It angers me, but I enjoy the game. And I really hope that it can get better and it can thrive. And I'm happy to make content on it if you guys want. Also, if you have any ideas for Showdown, like, go ahead, because Showdown's really boring for me right now. I'm not enjoying it. It's kind of shitty. Once this video goes live, I'll have an Overwatch section on my server. My Discord server will be in the description, guys. If you guys want to join, chill with some of us. Some of us are from GS Raiders server. We're pretty chill. Bit toxic, but we're happy to have you guys. And I would love to see new members and new faces all over the place. Talk to you guys, and we can discuss things. And on the topic of discussing things, if you're discussing things, please be respectful. And that is pretty much me, guys. I'll just let the end of this clip roll because we won, because I'm goated on Lucio. Bye-bye, guys.